Morning, all. So, here we are. We are up to another day, and we've got a back to back. So, for Calgary, no rest. And that's going to be happening. We're going to see a back to back as well out of today's games where Colorado and Arizona are playing tomorrow. I've moved the time for the live stream tomorrow. So, I had one set for during Carolina Boston game 3. Realizing what a minefield that could be, I've instead set it to where it's Arizona Colorado. So, yeah, we'll have that tomorrow. That again is on the channel. Upcoming live streams and all that. I haven't moved the Monday one for Patreon and members because those ones are so chill. So those ones that'll be absolutely fine. I think that might be some of the. That's probably the only real socializing I do. I don't really go out much, so pretty much the extent of it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Arizona and Colorado, this one starts at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 11 a.m. Pacific, which is in about an hour's time from when this is going to go live. And again, I forced myself to sleep today because I haven't been catching up my sleep enough. So I apologize if this doesn't go up early enough for everybody to get in their picks on who's going to win between Colorado and Arizona. Again, Arizona needs to show a little bit more than they did in that first game because Colorado just looks like the better team. 14 shots on Grubauer makes it really easy for him, really easy for the defense. And I'm not taking anything away from their defense. I'm not taking anything away from Colorado. I've been picking them to go to the Stanley Cup Finals since before the season started. And in my bracket, I still have them going to the Stanley Cup Final. So now we've seen a lot of series end up being tied after what looked like a pretty easy game one. But we will see with this one whether or not Arizona can come up with a game plan. If Rick Tocchet's got a game plan to counter the Colorado Avalanche. Should be an interesting one. Also, Vancouver, and this one's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 3:30 p.m. Pacific. So right in the middle of the afternoon in the Vancouver area. Vancouver and St. Louis being designated the home team, of course, none of that matters since it's in Edmonton. But Vancouver is up 1-0. If Vancouver, and I'm saying a giant if, were able to secure a second victory over the St. Louis Blues in the first 2 games played, we could be looking at what would be seen as a major upset. This is a Vancouver team that I saw predictions that were going to get killed. I saw predictions that... And you know what the funny thing is? That... Well, Pixel again enjoys her scratcher bed. The interesting thing is that normally those comments come a lot from people who you would think would be Canuck fans, where they're just expecting, they're just going to get killed in the first round. No, that was 2012. That was 2013. To some extent, 2015 as well, although the series against Calgary was competitive. They still lost that in 6. This feels different. And I can't put my finger on it, but it feels different. And there have been times over my life where I've said it feels like the Canucks are gonna, actually do something, and people have looked at me like I'm an alien. Feels like we're right in the midst of that again. And there are other Canuck fans that agree with me. That's only because the internet's the thing. Before the internet was the thing, nah, this would have been Shannon's must be drinking because he's talking about how the Canucks are gonna be good again. Well, he is telling that to a jukebox. All right, jukebox. What's a jukebox? Yeah, I know, I'm old. Next up, Dallas and Calgary. So it's 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. Calgary's designated the home team because it's a game 3. So back-to-backs. And Dallas has to show they're going to do it again. And for Calgary, they've got to do it. Now, I have not seen a report yet on whether or not Tkachuk's going to play. If they have to do this without Tkachuk, that is a major difference maker for Calgary. All of a sudden, Dallas would be trying to do to Calgary what Calgary did to Winnipeg. Now, it'd be a lot more difficult because you still got Lucic, you got Ronaldo, you've got other big, strong players in Calgary, but you'd be getting this feeling that Dallas is starting to win that war of attrition. So we'll see how physical things are right out of the gate and what Corey Perry might do for an encore because, last night he looked like Corey Perry from Anaheim. And Jamie Benn had a good game last night too. So if these trends can continue and the veterans play like we know they can, which has made it more frustrating as a fan following Dallas all year, because in general they haven't, or at least it hasn't been consistent. If they can find that again, they could emerge with a 2-1 series lead. But on the back-to-backs, the other thing I've been noticing in this year's playoffs, there's a lot of trends I'll end up coming out about after these playoffs are done. But in back-to-backs, they usually end up being splits. So I would not be surprised if the Flames end up winning this game. But it's going to be probably pretty sloppy, probably a lot of fights, and may end up being another high-scoring game. It's unpredictable. Speaking of which, Montreal and Philly. So for Montreal, I've also got them on the board here because I did not want to forget, and I did want to make mention of, and the reason I'm wearing a Montreal jersey is, of course, Claude Julien. Claude Julien was having chest pains. They took him into the hospital. Now, what's happened is it is coronary, and so they have installed a stent in a coronary artery and sent him home. Now, this means he's not going to be back to coach any of the rest of the series against Philadelphia. They've put Kirk Muller in charge. Mark Bergevin has assured the media and fans watching that the fact that Kirk Muller doesn't speak French is not going to be a major problem. I honestly was kind of surprised by that. Muller has been a part of the Montreal organization long enough, you would think he would have already learned French. Now, not everybody can pick up another language quickly. It is tough, but French, I mean, maybe it's because I grew up with it, but that being said, the way it's spoken, there's times where somebody will be speaking French to me and I kind of understand, and then they start really speeding up the French, and I'm like, and I'm gone. I have no idea what you're talking about. So Montreal has to put all that out of their mind and play against a Philadelphia team that was the better team in game one. Or maybe they use that for inspiration and they come out and they do, what they can do against Philly. And anybody's wondering why the gritty magnet, because I like to use different kinds of magnets for the games and for the news videos, and there is nothing else Philly related. It's either the Philadelphia Flyers logo, which has never really changed, or gritty. I don't have another magnet for Philadelphia that's fun or something cool. They've never had a secondary. So there you go. Philadelphia get a secondary. This with Claude Julien having been a former coach of the Boston Bruins, I'm kind of rooting for a Montreal win tonight. I am. This one starts at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, which is why I didn't end up doing a live stream on Friday, because these games overlap. This one only starts an hour before this one, so this one starts 2.5 hours after now as I'm recording this. So we'll see what happens there. Should be an interesting game. And all the best to Claude Julien, of course. Islanders looking to do the deed against the Washington Capitals and knock them out. And I know it's only one game, but Backstrom's not in it, and Washington may very well be looking at Anders Lee and going, we want to take him out. I know Capitals fans didn't like the hit. It was a penalty. I didn't think it was suspension worthy, but it was a penalty. And so Anders Lee could very well be a marked man for guys like Tom Wilson, for Hathaway. But if you get too distracted with that, you can end up in the box. You can end up getting a suspension yourself and putting the Capitals in an even worse position. They can't be so caught up in their hatred for Anders Lee that they get distracted from the rest of it. So, and at the same time, being without Backstrom is huge. That is absolutely huge. This is a team that Washington's always been a pretty deep team, but that's going to test anybody's depth. So we'll see. I haven't seen either whether or not Eller's going to be in the lineup. Somebody in the comment section below will let us know, but I haven't seen anything. So if Eller's back in, that mitigates it a little. If it's without Eller and Backstrom, this series could be quick. The Islanders play a bruising style. They do. They can be somewhat boring to watch at times, but they are really impressive. They are really, really impressive. So we'll see how things go between they and the Capitals tonight. And yeah, there's going to be some overlap. Absolutely going to be some overlap. There's 4.5 hours between these, 4.5 hours between this, but 1 hour here, 3.5 here, 1.5 here, 2.5 here. So for those like myself trying to watch everything, this is where, and I watch it on the NHL.com site. I have the Stanley Cup package for $75 You can watch all the Stanley Cup games. It is a bit pricey, but considering I'm trying to watch 2 games at the same time, and I know people are going to say, well, there's these streaming sites. Yeah, I prefer to have access to whatever feed I want, and it's pretty darn close to live, and I don't have to worry about buffering, or it's just it works for me, and it's not a big deal. So, yeah, let me know your winners for the games today in the comment section below. And the last articles of the day to talk about, Tuukka Rask is saying things are kind of boring without fans in the stands. And you know what? I get it. But do these guys not realize there's millions of fans watching them globally? And then during a time of pandemic when, everything's kind of up in the air and we're all kind of hoping things will get back to normal at some point soon. It's nice to have hockey back and have some sense of normalcy. It's nice to be able to watch various sports and have that sense of normalcy. And so it's important. And I think there are a lot of players who understand how important this is to fans. And so seeing that from Tuukka, it does make me wonder, like, his numbers haven't been great. Is he having a hard time focusing? Because if I'm Bruce Cassidy, I would go to him and say, so if you're having a hard time focusing, we can throw in Yarrow. Because the Boston Bruins, this might be the last best chance they get. We may very well see a time very soon where guys like Marchand, Bergeron are on the decline. And while Pastrnak is young, there aren't a lot of blue chippers coming up through the Boston organization. I think they'll have a very hard time staying at or near the top of the league. And so this might be their best chance for a while. And I think you have to approach it that way. And I think you have to play with the idea you're playing for the fans you can't see. You're playing for your family. You're playing for, that motivation. And so, if Tuukka's having a hard time finding that, give me a call. I'll talk to him. It's not going to happen. But yeah, is it different? Yes, it is a different environment. But once the puck drops, most players have been saying it feels the same as a regular game. And I heard Anson Carter on NBC say, when you're playing the game, you don't even think about the fans. You're so busy focusing on the game, you don't really think about the fan aspect. So there you go. I guess they could do the digital fans or the cardboard cutout fans. It's all weird. I would think that makes it more eerie. I like the way the NHL's done it. I like the covering the seats in the bottom area. I think it looks really sharp. I do. I had a dream last night that the NHL came back to play in 2021, to start the 2020-2021 season, and they had removed the front 2 rows to keep them away from players. It makes no sense. There's a glass right in between. But in the dream, they removed the first 2 rows, and they had every third seat was empty, so you could only come in pairs of 2. And I was thinking, how do they know? How do they know these people will know each other? How do they figure out who gets the paired seats? Do you have to buy the pairs together? And don't even ask me how I was on the ice looking around the arena at that. I have no idea. So, all right. Also, yesterday, Dan Hamhuis came out and retired. Hammer was amazing. I almost wore a Vancouver jersey for this because, to me, Hamhuis, I know I'm pretty sure his career was more spent in Nashville and Vancouver, but loved him as a Canuck. And I'm glad that he's ended out his career in Nashville, and wish him only the best. Hamhuis was a solid defenseman for Vancouver. I know he took a lot of flack when they said he wouldn't waive his no trade clause, but that was all conjecture. I never saw an actual proof that he refused to waive it. In fact, when he was asked, he said they never asked him to waive his no trade clause, but the internet went nuts and said, he's selfish and he won't waive his no trade to go to Dallas. And thinking, but he said he wasn't asked. So, all right, there you go. News of the day and a preview. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.